Hello and welcome to this week's Madaxeman podcast. We've got the full gang of 7. We've struggled through centimetres of snow to be here in our respective tiny little studios spread all across London and the South East to bring you this week's load of chat and drivel. We go all over the shop this week, making a random change from every other week. We talk about painting horses. If you're interested in 1942 urban renewal in rural New Guinea, this is the podcast for you. There's a name check for Shania Twain, doesn't happen every week, and also the huge, bigger than Brexit, MicroSol, Microset debate, before, of course, we get topical and we talk about weather. So sit back, plug your ears back, and enjoy the podcast.
This means war.
Look, welcome. This is episode 61. We're back again after our enforced break over Christmas. We've decided to come back and we're back again. So it's actually clearly worth doing. It appears that somebody's even been listening to this based on some comments on Facebook, which is much to everybody else's amazement. But as we're on a roll, or possibly because we've not really thought of anything else to do that's different, the best way to start this is the traditional way to start this and randomly pick one of the 7 people on the little screen, one of which is me, to talk about what has been hitting the painting table this week and possibly what might have been hitting the purchasing table. So I'm looking at Peter with your Assyrian relief in the background, in your Zoom background. Very thematic, very, very good. It's setting off the badger hair fantastically well.
It's just fits in nicely with this sort of great streaks.
Nicely, yeah. It is just perfect. The lion's mane and your luxurious locks.
My sort of like my L'Oreal sort of fashion.
That's it, really. That's a little bit disturbing. I'm not going to put this bit on video, but talk us through what's been on the Peter painting table and whether you've done any surreptitious shopping.
The shopping, there was temptations, but I didn't press go on anything because unfortunately I had various other things that I was distracted with. So that's going to sort of take my attention over the next couple of days. But I'm slowly, due to work and everything else, working my way through some Napoleonic. So I managed to actually colour off a whole bunch of horses for some cavalry. I've got some quite nice, I forget what they're called, coat d'armes paints.
Okay.
Yeah, I like my Valio for all the rest of it, but the coat d'armes, they did a range of horse paints, and I think they're perfect for it. So for me, I just line them up and I go, right, I'm going to have 2 of these, 3 of these, 2 of these. Sometimes I do the clever bit of go, oh, that regiment sometimes has darker horses and things like that, which I got clever with the Austrians, and it all just was too much like hard work. I like the colours.
Just like the randomness.
Yeah, well, my sons used to ride a fair bit, so I got, used to seeing some of the horses, and I like seeing the different colours of it, to be honest.
Palominos, they're nearly gold.
Well, yes and no. You can always bling up the bridles. You've got to remember that. It's just that little bit of bling that stands out.
So when you're doing horses, then it's always do you do black undercoat, white undercoat? Do you do a wash? Is it just use the straight colour?
I tried that out. I've tried a couple of things. So I've tried the black undercoat. I've tried the white undercoat, and I tried doing the half and half. And to be honest, I went back just to spraying them white and carrying on and spraying white with all the rest of it, because those coat d'armes ones, I find their coverage is fantastic. And normally I use the Army Painter stuff. So that darkens it down a tone more than I think most of the rest of you guys do. So for me, that works quite nicely, because for me, when I do the black, it then makes it harder to do something like a bay horse or something like that. Because it just sort of comes through a bit too much for me. And I just know a couple of nice horses I liked that were quite bay.
Okay. Can I just add to that? I've used coat d'armes paint for years, especially for the horses, all those horses' colours, and I do find over a white coat they are perfect. Over a black coat, especially the lighter ones like bay, I end up having to do 3 coats.
Yeah. I think I've seen that as well.
Bays generally tend to be a sort of dark reddy brown.
No, there's a nice chestnut for that. There's they do a nice mahogany red.
You do get some light,
gorgeous colour. Yeah,
I haven't had a problem painting bays over over black primer.
Well, let's look at the basic facts on this. Your painting ability compared to mine, I'm lucky I get it on the miniature, not on me. Okay, you're doing the graffiti in detail and 7 shades of wash. I'm like going, great. It looks kind of the right color.
Looks like it might be a horse. It could be.
And from 3 feet, it looks fantastic, especially if you wear glasses and not wearing them. So for me, as Adam was saying, it's just a nice go-to thing. It's almost like a comfort factor when I'm painting them because it just makes life easier. And then it's like then I've got to work out uniforms and stuff like that. And Andy's spoilt me by sending me a whole stack of papers about Bavarians and others. So I'm slowly working my way through it, but I'm quite enjoying it. It's just like it gives my brain a rest from all the rest of the madness.
Has it been a week of just horses then, or have you? Because that was my bet noir last year at some point. Just
horses and saddles.
Horses and salads. Saddles, not salads. Sorry,
salads. Yeah, they do nice red salads. Yeah. You've got me saying it now.
Yeah,
saddles,
different leaves.
And just sorting out a few bits and pieces. So I'm just getting back into the theme of it, getting my little painting table going as I've been relegated due to the kids being at home to the smaller desk. So it means I've got to be a bit more compact with my work.
We get the painting mojo. Okay. So how long do you think until you start hitting the actual riders and things like that? Is that going to be somewhere off?
No. That's what I'm going to be doing while we're on the podcast. So I've got the old flesh tones because doing the flesh tones is great on the while we're on the podcast because it's a splodge here, splodge there onto the next one. And I'm not stressing about the colours. Right.
Oh, okay. You're doubling up then. Fine. And you weren't even tempted. There was no little bits of accidental internet browsing that you drifted towards.
Yes, I did get a couple of bits. Which
are we supposed to have this conversation when there's no one in earshot? I think I saw one of your kids wander into the screen there, but
there's a couple of bits that I'll explain next month.
Right, you'll explain next week. Fine. Okay, we'll not press you any further then. But running along the top of the list then.
This gives me an idea for Andy's quiz. Quiz question is, what did Peter buy? Answer
what
next
did he
week.
Actually buy? Yes, that could be it. We could have a lottery on it. It could be another phone in.
I don't think you'll get this one. This is
no, we won't get this one. Okay, then fine. So Tamsin, just to quickly whiz by, are you still in household limbo, or did the painting bug?
Still in limbo. Going up for another viewing on the property on Wednesday, and doing measuring up and checking that as it's been vacant since middle of December, that there hasn't been any nasty accidents like pipes bursting.
Yep, with a bit of snow this week and things like that.
Yeah.
So is that still meant all your has that meant all your painting has been just completely stopped?
Yeah, I painting nothing on the painting table, and don't want to order anything in case I've moved before it arrives.
Yeah. Oh, that could be tricky. Oh no. So just a slow week. Does that mean you end up thinking about internet shopping for when, does that make it even more frustrating and you end up with a shopping list of things that you're going to go, I want to buy that, but I'm going to buy it in the future? Is there any browsing like that? Or
there's been plans.
There's been plans. Are you in a position to cough any of them up, or do you just not want to jinx the house move?
Yeah, I think one bit inspired partly by sort of book I'm reading. New Guinea campaign in World War II.
Okay. Right.
That I might either I hadn't realised that for the campaign to recapture Lay, that's LAE.
Right.
That there were US paratroopers involved.
Was it 50?
It was 503rd.
503rd, that's it. Yeah, Army parachuters. They dropped into the location, didn't they?
Yeah, they dropped in to secure an abandoned airfield and prepare it for planes to land on, to bring in the Australians, and the Americans never actually saw action against the Japanese there. But
just asking that question though, from a wargaming point of view, landing on an undefended airstrip and then doing some digging, is that that's pretty niche even for a two fat lardy set of rules, isn't it?
Oh, they did do a couple of other combat tracks, didn't they?
It's the what if. What if the Japanese had responded and
I see. All right.
But Tamsin, couldn't you actually do the whole campaign on actually a sort of a 3-foot table on the basis that most of the fighting took place on the Kokoda Trail up on the ridge of the old Stanley Mountains, where the battlefront was literally about 10 foot wide because it was just so dense jungle?
I think I'm going to have to call a timeout to this one because I think I'm already thinking you're all showing off by knowing there was a campaign in New Guinea. Never mind the fact there are American paratroops and that, Andy, you can name some of the individual roads down which these people marched. I think
there was only one.
Yeah, there was only one.
That was it.
Many roads. There were many roads in New Guinea. Dakota Tracker is sort of the defining.
Okay, so this is potentially then the next Osprey. B roads of New Guinea, 1939 to 45, possibly. Or possibly roadworks. We could then involve the American paratroopers involved in it as well.
Describe Kokoda Track as a road is stretching it. Describe it as a path in places is stretching it.
Okay.
So sort of special local rules. You're going to be, roll the die 6 to see how much ditches they dig. Is that sort of thing. And, if you roll double 6, you get to do the gradient on the airstrip.
Don't forget, it's boiling hot. You're at 20,000 feet. That must be a bit challenging.
But if they were building an airstrip or things like that,
20,000 feet, it was actually bloody cold there.
Cold weather gear in New Guinea.
The Alan Stanley Mountains were not the worst for the cold.
Yeah, you've got some
There's one Ivan Mountain. What's the range? I forgot the name of the range. Just to the west, the north and west of Ley.
The Chilterns.
Yeah, some of the mountains there were snow-capped.
Isn't that the one where that British major got lost?
I think I'm feeling a bit lost here. I attempted to stop it when it got too technical about names of roads, and now we're talking about climate and altitude within New Guinea in 1939 to 45.
I think Warlord Games have already done a set of rules for it. What you do is you draw a dice from a bag to see who gets to dig their ditch first.
Dig their ditch first, yeah. If they'd been there unopposed that long, would they have put in things like a duty free and stuff like that? I guess it would have been an international airport, or possibly. In fact,
the Japanese. The problem the Japanese had was actually getting stuff to stock for duty free shops.
Getting to stop at it.
No, getting them to stock any stock in for their duty-free shops.
Kept sinking all their boats.
And shooting down all their planes.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were diving even deeper into Osprey. Shell stackers of Japanese Second World War duty-free shops, 1939 to 45 brackets, New Guinea close brackets. But yes. Although I think I actually have bought things from Japanese duty-free shops in the past, but so that I can contest.
Let's have the New Guinea stamped on them.
Yes, not the New Guinea version though, not at all. Okay, well look, that's kind of somewhat of an eclectic diversion. Just how weird can we go from there?
This means war.
Saunders, tell us something sensible, please, about that we might have all heard about. What have you been doing? Is it El Cid? Is it Spanish? You're going to do the accent?
I've almost finished an entire army in about, I don't know, how long is it? When did we meet up?
It was last week, wasn't it? When we did our handover.
4 weeks, I've painted a whole Legio Heroica army.
Nice.
Have you actually?
I'll send you one to do for me.
9 bases of knights, 3 bases of heavy infantry, 4 bases of crossbow, lightfoot bowmen, all done and dusted. I just need to do a couple of light horse cavalry, finish off the bowmen.
So when you say a whole army, you actually mean
And
I'm not even sure. Well, I'm not even sure this is legal, but it means you sound like you've got a 200-point list there, a standard size list, and you've only painted the figures necessary to put that together, rather than going, oh, and if I had another one of those, I could possibly field that on a Wednesday, and then I could do actually 4 of them would let me do 300 points, and you end up with an enormous amount of figures. But this is just a proper army's worth.
No, I've overdone it.
Yeah,
6 lots of knights, but I'm going to end up with 9.
Just a mere 50% over. Yeah.
And those are knights with little big man transfers on the shields. Everything. Oh, by the way, I think you should spray horses black.
Oh, we have controversy. Fight.
I too use all the coat d'arms horses paint, and they are, I agree, really good. I do agree the Dun has a little bit of a problem with coverage on the black. But what's good is you can leave the legs black and the tails black, and then you get the effect. And the chestnut covers really well, the darker colour. But then you get the effect of the black shine coming through the paint, and that's much better, I find.
I have tried that, but I think I would still go with Peter myself and go. Yeah. Do white and then use the army paint to wash for the dark bits on the legs and the other bits.
Yeah, but if you're doing something like Mongol horses and that, you want black legs. So what I do is paint. I spray them black, and then I do a dry brush of grey over, so you pull out the tail and you get the detail on, and then put the darker cut the horse colours onto the top of it. And I agree, some of it doesn't cover brilliantly.
Is it quite a thick dry brush then? Are you actually painting onto the dry brush, or is it just to pick out the detail?
So you can see the horse's mane, the horse's tail, that little bit of grey over the horse's tail makes it stand out. And also it tones down the black on the legs, so you can see the legs and the definition and that sort of thing. I've definitely moved to that. I used to do white, but I've just moved to white.
Right. Okay.
Legio Roker Army, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do next.
Have you still got odds and sods of it left, enough to do probably another whole army, or will that be the whole thing?
I've still got 2 lots of heavy infantry to do. I've overdone the light horse. They don't do a Hinette in the Legio Roker range, which is a shame. If Giuseppe.
What?
Hinette.
So Hinette.
Repeating the word again doesn't actually make it even more understandable.
I think he means a Jeanette.
Jeanette.
Not a,
right. Oh, now it's understandable. No, not a hairnet.
It's a Spanish light horse.
Now I understand.
Spanish light horse. We got it. Yeah.
So I've ended up using Muslim.
Are you sure they're not? Are you sure they're not Jinetes?
So I've ended up using Muslim ones, which are not.
Donington do it.
Yeah, but I want something to go. I want to do all Legio Heroica and keep, the army Legio Heroica,
Okay. So, because last time you got the Duke of Cadbury or something like that. Did you do the heraldry last week, or any new bizarre colour combinations this week?
Hang on a minute. I've got my piece of paper here. So I've got.
You've got a spreadsheet. You've got a spreadsheet.
Leon, we've got the Lords of Biscay, which de Harrow, where we've been and had wine.
We've been to Harrow, yes. We've had tapas in the town square.
Harrow in Spain.
Yeah.
And then we've got what we got else? We've got the Count of Lara. No, maybe not him. Oh, we've got the Holy Lord.
Is that cricketing related?
Largo and Alcantara. Then we've got Don Attorella, Lord of Hinto.
Lord of Hinto.
So, Dave, how are you going to remember these? Are you going to paint the names or write the names on the base or something?
Paper with their names in that.
The names are so long they'd have to be 25mm figures.
Yeah. Okay, but they're all people from La Navas de la Tolosa. So I can identify all the Spanish nobility from.
So you've got to make sure you do.
Dave, I can see you going to a competition in Spain with this army, and playing somebody local and saying, "This is my Spanish army. This is whatever," and the guy looking at you thinking, "What on earth is he talking about?"
I think that's going to happen anywhere he does it, Andy. Anywhere at all with that accent.
Dave, what you've got to do is make sure when you're playing someone, you don't say, "Oh yes, and this is the Duke of the," and this is, because someone's done that to me when they had the War of the Roses army, and he was telling me all and I was just sat there thinking, I don't care. I didn't ask. I was just like, I don't care, mate. And he wouldn't stop.
I'm going to wait for one of the Spanish guys to turn around and say, "Oh, that's my great-great-great-great-grandfather."
What's the Spanish for I don't care? Because you'll probably hear that.
Yeah. No, there'll probably be a night.
Medieval army, do it properly.
Yeah. Cerveza. That's the Spanish for I don't care.
Yeah, that could be it. Dos cerveza, por favor. That would be the one. Right. So if you're getting surprisingly to the end of that one, just trying to remember, I think you said you might be doing an army for someone else. Is that next in the Dave painting queue?
Well, I'm waiting for it to arrive. That'll be Lurkio English Restoration.
Oh, right. Okay.
I know nothing about that. So I have been doing some research on the little red jackets with the green cuffs and Huguenot units and blah, 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 and all that. So when that happens, we'll get there and do that.
Yeah, I think they're quite chubby little figures, those guys, when they come.
They're going to be a bit different from the Lego Heroica, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. And do you have any bits and bobs in the drawer that might tide you over?
There's still Franks. There's still
You got rugby shirts to do.
Still about another army of rugby shirted Franks, and I'm just waiting for Lyscon to do some more figures for their Akai Minis. They're later, early Akai Mini list, so I can start getting a few more of those. But there's bits and bobs, but I don't know. I've got no idea. I mean, it's great to have painted all these armies. It'd be really nice to get them on the table and play with it.
Just even one of them, really. Maybe we'll go back to the really old days that people used to do when we all played 5th or 6th, and everybody just gets all their armies out on a 18-foot table and puts them all next to each other, and we just line them all up and go, and it's just like
then we're all on one side and Dave's there with all his Franks on the other
side. It's just a whole
taking
18 foot
on
of
15
Franks.
armies.
18 foot of Franks against everything.
Well, that's basically what happens when Stan does one of his King of the Battlefield days. It's basically bring all your toys and shove them on the table. We won't worry about who's allied with who.
Yeah. No, that's good. But this will be like the Achaemenids allied with the Austrians or something like that from 1812. There'll be all sorts of odds and sods on that. And then Judge Dredd will be waving in, won't he? Blasting everybody with laser beams or whatever. But no, actually, that mention of the Achaemenids reminds me, one of the things I forgot from last week in the What Have You Done Over the Last Month was my, they're supposed to be 10 mil, but I did them as 15 mil Persian war wagons.
Oh, yeah.
They're wonderful.
From those Pendragon 10 mil MDF siege tower that was about a £5, that I crewed it up with 15 mil Persian figures, because I've got now all the museum people have arrived, which means I was able to recycle some of my old Essex ones and kind of jam them into this 3-story siege tower, recycle some horses, which are probably not appropriate. They probably should have been oxen, but the horses from an Essex war wagon as well, with the side panels to protect them from shooting, and paint a couple of these things up for those mad Cyrus the Great's mobile towers as a kind of shooting platform, which sounds like they actually might really have been a thing, rather than just something
battle where they were supposed to have used them.
Yeah, but I kind of get the impression they might have been a real thing rather than just an apocryphal made up load of old nonsense, which slightly surprised me. But yeah, getting those done, and then doing my cheaty wallpaper thing of recycling some images from Pinterest and just sticking them to the side of these little MDF towers. And I chucked that onto I took the photos, chucked it on the website and put it on Facebook and a couple of other places, and it just got almost literally hundreds of likes and retweets and all sorts of other bits and pieces, for people saying that how bonkers it was, which was good. And I even checked with the guy at Pendragon, Leon at Pendragon, and I'm just trying to think where it is. I've got it somewhere.
Were they asking you for wallpapering advice?
No, I actually said, look, did you flog any more? And he said, since it put it up, they sold 8 more sets. which is clearly quite good. So, it's generating business for someone with these little MDF siege towers. So that was a whole other thing, alongside all the bits and bobs. But this week I've been making a bit of a dent in the 10mm World War II stuff that's been gradually been collected. I think last week was Dunkelgelb spray day, getting everything painted sort of yucky greeny yellow. And this week I've did a test one, tried some things to try and get the 3-tone camo working properly. Got a couple of tips off some people, I think Michael from the club as well, on the internet about how to make it look a bit better than it did to start with. And I've now got 6 Hanemags, a command vehicle, a Opel Blitz truck, and a little Stug with a load of little geezers on the back of it, being ferried around, and then also a couple of little 250s as recce as well. So as a test for the rest of the tanks, I'll start doing the tanks soon, and they've come out really, really well. And it's just odd having a consistent set of German stuff that's here. And I've just chucked a few photos online in the last couple of hours to get them up with taken in the light box. Well, the 5
So
light box.
What was the suggestion on the camouflage? Was it less is more or something?
Well, it's that debate about, do you get an airbrush for a handful of 10mm tanks, which the answer is just no, really. I'm not going to do that.
You had an opportunity to buy more kit and you turned it down?
No, but I think we had that.
Call yourself a wargamer?
Well, sort of, but Tamsin, I think you contributed to that discussion, and it just was the point of, don't buy a cheap one, and then you end up with a compressor and all the other bits. And I'm just going, it was just a step too far. And I actually
what is the approved Madaxeman way of painting German 3-tone camo now then? Because I've seen the pictures and they do look quite good.
Yeah. So it's spray with Dunkelgelb, which is a straightforward one. Then do the first set of stripes quite broad, as broad stripes, but do them about a 50-50 mix of the colour and Dunkelgelb. So you kind of get a washed out green and a washed out brown for the first set of colours, and then you do a stripe down the middle of the full colour. So if you look at some of them, you can actually still see it, that the middle is darker than the edges. If you were Tams, I suspect you probably do about 4 different layers and blend it in completely. I just did it with 2 because they're 10mm, and there's a limit to how good I am and accurate I am.
Strip down the middle.
I'd be doing it with an airbrush.
Well, you'd be doing it with airbrush, yes.
The centre stripe will always be stronger than the outer.
Yeah.
So the strip down the middle is the same colour, yeah?
Yeah, it's the same colour, but the wider
why does
strip,
it look darker?
Because it's the full colour. It's not mixed 50-50 with Dunkelgelb.
Oh, right, that's the bit I missed. So you're mixing it with Dunkelgelb. Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's doing it. And you can see, and when I did it to start with, it was like, that's still a bit kind of strong, and I was in really 2 minds. But then someone said, look, what you then do is you dry brush the whole thing with Dunkelgelb as well, and that does blend it in a lot more, which I was sort of in 2 minds whether it would work, but it actually does. So I was kind of very chuffed with the way you can do it. And I think on some of them, you can just about see it. I think it's I think maybe it's best on some of the actually, no, you can see it on that one. Let's just see if I share screen with you guys just briefly. You can see on this little Stug, the strips down the front, like that brown, you can see the full brown and the lighter brown. And then on the left-hand side as well, you can see the green and the green and the brown strips on there. There's a darker bit down the middle.
So you didn't want to go to the dotty fashion one then?
I was in 2 minds, but I just thought that would look. I'd already commenced down this one.
The ambush pattern.
Yeah, the full ambush.
Yeah.
I was in kind of 2 minds about
dotty.
that. Yeah, but I just thought that was just a little bit too much. You know, I want them to blend it a bit more.
Especially for 10 mil, it would be a bit hard to.
It's just a lot of work,
I like
really.
The dotty one's good.
The dotty one is, but you've got to go with one of them, and I kind of wanted the stripes, and I've got some pre-paint plastic ones as well that are that stripy color as well that I might get away with not even repainting because they're sort of close enough. They're just a little bit lighter.
So you just didn't want to have another unit which was dotty as well, so you could have the dotty platoon and the stripy platoon.
Yeah, I think going the dotty platoon and the stripy platoon is probably not the way the Wermacht would have been organised. In you know, the dotty platoon over there and the stripy platoon somewhere else. So it was but I'm chuffed with the way they come out, and starting to put the numbers on. I've got a set of numbers from Pendragon with the little crosses as well, which is good. I've also been working on the basing of this Russian Viking army. I did a lot of the sand and the glue and the wood stain over the last few days, so they're about probably 3/4 done in terms of suddenly being able to refurb them, but I'm repainting all the spears, as I said there, and I've also put onto lollipop sticks quite a few figures. I actually took the drill, the fantastic Dremel, on its drilling stand, and it normally sort of sits tucked away in the corner of the desk, but I actually moved the pull down, you know, fruit machine, whatever it is thing, and I actually cleared the desk and moved it into the middle of the desk and drilled a few more arms and hands of some of the Donington 15mm Swiss that I've got to drop some pikes into those, because they do need the hands drilling out. So that's all done. And then I accidentally got a bit more stuff from Pendragon as well. So I've got a Sherman with a mine flail. I've got a priest. I got and a couple of German mobile anti-aircraft things, a Wirbelwind and one that's in the back of a very, very fat truck.
I used to love the Wirbelwind.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing, isn't it? But I've got one that's in the back of an enormously fat prime mover. Just this sort of thing, but one of these little funny half tracks with a in it. But those big German prime mover half tracks are either completely produced out of scale, or they were immense. It's about
they were immense.
Yeah,
they were really large.
It's like 20% wider than
mount
an
an 88 on them.
I was going to say they use them for towing field guns and things.
Yeah, but it's
you
like
put an
wider
88
than
on it.
Yeah, huge, great thing.
Sorry, you accidentally. So you rang up Leon and I said, "Yeah, how's it been going with the MDF's tower stuff?" Oh,
Yeah,
and by the way,
just,
can I have a Sherman with a mine layer and blah blah?
No, it was actually more than, because I was ordering 160 40 by 30 MDF bases, and once you've done that, it's just that something just jumps out of the.
Well, you try and tell me it was an accidental click. The mouse made you do it.
It was out, yeah, because I could have just gone on the Minibits website and just bought them and just the MDF, but I thought I'll buy them through the Pendragon one just to see while I paid for the postage if there's anything else, and strangely enough there was, which was some of these other bits and pieces. So there's that, and then as we've been sat here, I've just dug out something that's been sat on the table for ages. Is a 1/200th Junkers 52 German paratroop plane that is from a Zvezda kit, and 1/200th is fine for 10mm for aeroplanes, because aeroplanes look bloody enormous, and you're not going to be doing too much with them anyway. But I'm not sure. I'm going to have to go diving in the bin once we're finished with this, because as I've unpacked it, I'm realizing I've got all the bits apart from the glass canopy. So that's
some of them were open canopy.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, low altitude.
Junkers 52. Not the one on this box.
Oh well.
Civil War they were, I think.
That might just be my fault. I might have accidentally, in my excitement, unpacked it. And
what do you think of this
there it is.
stuff?
I've got it. It's in with the stickers.
There you go.
There's the glass canopy.
What do you think of this Zvezda stuff?
Well, this is the first one
I've
done. It's really solid. You know, it said click together. I've used glue, but it said click together. You know, it's it is a gaming piece, I think, slightly more than a proper model, but honestly, for what I want to use it for, it's absolutely fine. I think this was like £3 or something for a proper sized aeroplane. It's got all the ribs on the side of it and things like that. And what am I going to do with it?
I bought a few different stuff from Zvezda, and I've never bought any of their stuff and been disappointed with it. They always do good quality. Even their 20mm like Napoleonics and stuff, which is like gold Airfix boxes, but it's Zvezda. Yeah. It's as good as 28mm metal figures you'll get. They really are top quality. Yeah. I've never bought anything from that company that I thought, oh, this is ropey. It's always been done a job that you want it to do.
And this is it's really solid plastic actually as well. You know, I think sometimes you get the plastic and it's a bit thin, but this is like proper weighty stuff. So you know, I will then. I think it means I've got to go buy some German Paras possibly, unless I've got some already. I'll have to check. I'm not sure if I do.
You probably sold them all to me about 10 years ago.
Yeah, possibly. But then I've also got. I also did some more Mycenaean spearmen as well. I did another 4 bases of those because I've got a theory after going to an event in France about 15 months ago that my previous Mycenaean army, well, my current Mycenaean army was go big on the chariots and don't have so many spearmen. And then I saw some bloke come 2nd or 3rd in the competition by having minimum chariots and going big on the spearmen. So that seeped through my brain after about more than a year and a half. And I bought another 4 or 5 bases of spearmen when I bought the museum order.
How would the spearmen do well against the chariots? I thought they'd just get mowed over.
Well, the way the guy was using it was it was a biblical themed competition. So the 2 very good things in a biblical themed competition are the heavy infantry warband in the Sea People and elite chariots, or impact chariots. So having an army that is 15 supported spearmen, he took support with all of the spearmen, took 2 bowmen, I think, with each command. So each command was like 6 spearmen, 2 bowmen, and maybe 1 or 2 chariots as a reserve or a gap filler. And it was basically, I'm going to go forwards with 15 plus spearmen. I'm going to ping a bit of shooting off you. I've got 6 light foot with javelin to screen them. And we're all supported. So supported will cancel out impact or and make it almost impossible for chariots to take them down. And once you've done that, you're dragging people into a war of attrition. But a wall of 15 supported spear and not much else you can hit is suddenly very problematic for an army that relies on 4 chariots. And you've also got a huge hit point count for a biblical army, because a lot of biblical armies are all in ADLG 3 hit point medium infantry. That was the theory, and it seemed to work. And I think whenever I've tried to use Mycenaeans by maxing out the not very good chariots by having a lot of a dozen heavy chariots with no impact, it's just not worked. so it was kind of, here's a different way of doing it. I really like those figures, painting up the double bow case shields with the cow hide and stuff like that is kind of cool. And I've actually still got a 28mm Achilles figure that is going to get done as a general as well, so I can have Achilles and Hector and a couple of those as sort of like heroic generals to go with it. So yeah, so it's been an eclectic week of junkers.
So you weren't watching Brad Pitt for the advice about how to paint it and everything else then?
Well, I was thinking about sticking in kind of a completely anachronistic Greek spearman with a hoplite panoply or something like that, but there wasn't. Also, I think this I think it's a new line figure actually. The new line are lovely figures, but I think as Shania Twain would say, he ain't no Brad Pitt. This particular one, so it's someone else. But while we're talking to Brad Pitt, Andy, what have you been up to this week?
This means war.
Finishing off the Landsknechts, and I've finished pretty well all the figures now, apart from the generals. So that's 230 figures in total in just over a month, which I'm very happy about. And so just doing the generals as we speak, and then that will be a completed project, which for me is quite remarkable.
Are we all speeding up at painting, or are we all just run out of other things to do?
I'm just wondering, Andy might be stripe happy after this.
Yeah, no, definitely.
He sees everything in 5 colours.
Yeah.
That looks really good.
Thank you.
It does.
Yeah.
No, they look grand.
Yeah, the flags are handmade. I went online and somebody had a thing on somewhere on Facebook or something about painting Landsknecht flags. So I found the easiest ones I could find and just copied them. And
they're painted, not printed.
Yeah.
Wow. God, I didn't even.
That is impressive.
So possible. Yeah.
Well, the overall impression is shiny colours, and that's basically what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
But I'm quite pleased with that lot. Whether it's any good on the table remains to be seen. But I'm happy with the visual effect, and that's that done. And my next painting project will be not quite as glamorous. It's going to be 10mm undead skeleton army. So that'll basically be dry brush, black and dry brush bleached bone, and that will be pretty well most of it, apart from some rags that they're carrying. And
so they'll be done. They'll be done by next week then. That'll be it.
Probably not quite that quick. No,
right.
But,
actually, skeletons. I'd suggest go with the dark brown rather than black undercoat.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
I think that will look better with better with the bone.
It'll tone better. Yeah.
And how many layers of bone would you do? Yeah. How many layers of bone paint would you do?
About 100. I mean, these are 10mm figures.
Yeah, true.
And what's the difference between painting skeletons and painting Austrians?
Well, I think Austrians are easier to come by. There's more of them.
You don't need to use flesh colour.
Yeah. You just use a slight greeny tint to it or something like that. Do a wash.
What, the Austrians? No, that's only the Jaegers.
No, I'm thinking of that cuisine that they invented, or whatever it was, chicken with prawns or something. What if you're in a landlocked country?
No, that was French. That was the French who did that.
Scares me. But it's all sticking in there. I'm still remembering it. It must have been quite educational.
You should have had a go at the club quiz this weekend. It was all about Battle of Waterloo and pictures of paintings of people who'd been there.
No, I missed it. I was focused on 3-tone German stripes. That was my thing.
Yeah, I did do a bit of purchasing though.
Yeah, in fact, actually, that does remind me of one more thing I was going to say. So I bought a Vallejo set of 6 bottles. This was a year ago. A German armor paint set. Which, Adam, this is kind of like in your wheelhouse, I think. So it's like Middlestone, which is Dunkelgelb, which is great because you do need that clearly, which is fine. And then the camouflage is the chocolate brown and the reflective green. That's the 2 Vallejo which match this German thing. Good, right? Okay. There's German grey. I can buy that as well. And then there's track colour. And I was painting the track colour, and then halfway through I was thinking, what the hell is it? Is there a colour that German tank tracks were that
mud coloured?
Well, but then mud would sort of change, wouldn't it? So, but what did Germany make its tank?
What colour is it?
It's a kind of dirty brown.
That's mud coloured, isn't it?
Meant to reflect the sort of German tracks. It was straight steel, so they'd have got they rusted up quite a lot.
This says red oxide primer and rust, and you're going, it's not red oxide primer and rust, it's just brown, and it's indistinguishable from chocolate brown, really. And then on the bottom of a 10mm tank, in which it's glued to the half of it's glued to the floor. And that thing about Wargames, we all spend so long going, oh, is this exactly the right colour of that? And then we all laugh at people who do it too much, and then we all end up doing that ourselves anyway, which is just. And then the 6th one is ivory, which is for tank interior. And I'm going, no, they don't even have interiors. These ones and highlights.
Sort of like inside.
Unless we got to model a tank that had been blown up and had half its side taken off or something.
But then I think
if
it would
you've got
probably
open hatches.
Even then, it's black shadow, isn't it? It's like
Tab one.
No, the hatch covers.
The inside of the hatches.
Yeah.
But if you've got an open hatch, you've got a little German bloke with you've got a commander sat in it, probably a fat one. So he completely covers it. In fact, some of them even make the the hatches with the commander baked in. Really, I think you buy that separately. That's the almost the Victrix ones, I think, or something like that. So very, very odd set of paints. But so you've got skeletons coming up, Andy. You've now got the tip about painting them brown.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tamsin. And I did a bit of purchasing off a museum. I went for those. I went for the Thracian. Well, what I'm going to use the Thracian cavalry. I went for the some packs of Greek medium cavalry and some lights as well. And while I was there, I bought some Landsknecht carbine light cavalry. So,
does that round out your army that Blue Moon don't do?
Just a couple of skirmishing things for it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then just running along the top. Then Simon. So I think you've put in a museum order as well, and you've got some picture of those Landsknechts. What's been your painting and shopping week?
So for me, just two simple things. So I've finished up another Janissary unit for Renaissance, because why have 4 Janissary units when you can have 6 of them? Because they're all very pretty. So they're looking really good. I've started working on some of the Ottoman Turk heavy cavalry, the couple cooling. So I'm trying to do some of the different color, because they're meant to be very pretty units. So like the reds, purples, and whites, like little dots and scimitars or things like that, just to make all the banners look a bit interesting and all that.
Are you going white undercoat with those, or
I've gone for a grey undercoat across the board, because that was the one base coat I had available in the can.
A choice of all the ones I had available. This was
one
notable for being available. Yep.
Oh shit! I've got gold.
Well, some people on the podcast would be happy with that. Yeah, that would be job done, wouldn't it?
Hey, that's start and finish.
Yep.
I suppose you haven't tried doing a high elf army, Peter. You can get done in about 2 minutes. Just take them outside, spray them, and they're done.
Get stuck on the pointy ears bit.
So, Simon, are you going to admit what you've shopped for then?
So in the end, I was a little good. So I didn't go completely stupid on the museum miniatures website, which I have been known to do. So like Andy, I need some more Renaissance. So there may have been some Landsknecht light artillery, just to flesh out my German Landsknechts.
Yeah, they're quite nice, those ones.
Yeah, I bought their big guns, and that was good for heavy artillery, but sometimes you just need light artillery. So I bought a few.
Right. So realistically, Simon, how many Renaissance armies could you got at least an army for every single person on this podcast, Renaissance army?
Yes.
And have you enough for 2 armies for every single person on this podcast?
Almost.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah, because I can do Ottoman Turk, and then the Poles. Lots of the Landsknecht style of armies. A lot of English Civil War, 30 Years War, but I could do later ones. So I might have a slight addiction, but we won't talk about that this podcast. So
your Landsknecht pike kills. I'm looking at those Andy ones from that picture. So are they 80 by 80s? Is that how they're
80
based?
80 by 60.
80 by 60.
80 by 60 deep. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
32 figures. It's 8 figures wide.
All right. Okay. No, because I'm just looking at some of my own old Knights models ones, which I'm not sure they're going to see much action really, but they might be prime candidates to rebase to a couple of 80 by 60s. That might be quite cute.
Yeah. What I've done is for ADLGR, the big tercio is on the 80 by 80, because when you put that on the table, you go, that's a tercio. And it's got that nice square effect. And then the big keels and the later tercios are 80 by 60, because they're a little bit thinner from the infantry. There wasn't as many troops in it. And so it's very simple. You can look and go, big, slight big, pike and shot. There you go.
Yeah, no, that might be a thing. Yeah, no, I'm still toying with the idea of flogging off some of my Swiss to make up different Swiss, but that's a long thing. So what did you what are you going to admit what you ordered on Museum other than, because I don't think it was just 2 guns, was it? You know, you're not going on the museum sale and ordering 2 guns and a couple of light horse.
No. So I was going to buy a hoplite army and a Alexander the Great army.
Yeah.
But looking through the Greek army, the thought of actually just having 20 spear and a couple of cavalry really, when you sort of think, why am I going to do this? So I just bought a few of the hoplites just to actually paint for the sheer fun of it.
Yep.
And maybe next year I might buy a few more of them. But I bought enough of the Macedonian successor army, that style of one, so I can do Alexander the Great, because I don't have anything of that particular period. So I got enough bits and pieces to do Carthage, Macedonian successors, all those, that bit middle between Romans and the Gauls and my Egyptians. So
kind of classical, basically, classical era.
A few pike and things like that, because I've obviously got a few elephants, so I can do all the elephant army the Indian allies. So just the idea of doing some cool big pike units with big sticks and the companions and stuff like that. So I bought all those.
Well, I always think for the Macedonian and pike units, it's one of the armies that the Veni Vidi Vici water slide transfers still work really well for, just on shields with those simple designs. So you know,
the sunburst ones.
The sunburst ones or any of the other ones, really, if you get the right backgrounds, it's one of those ones where going the full hog on little big men is possibly not worth it, just because they're all tiny patterns and the water slide works quite well. But
I've done the little big man army with Zeiston figures. It's something you only want to do once.
Yeah.
6 bases of Macedonian pike. I did it for fog, and there were 4 bases deep, 4 pike on each. And I did 6, and I did them all with little big man transfers. And that's
a lot of swearing, isn't it? That's a lot of swearing.
That was my second army when I got back doing miniatures again after doing Romans. I did sort of, all the hoplites and everything else. It was great because you can spray a load of them gold.
And then they're halfway done.
Those Zeiston phalanxes have got one hell of a lot of use, and they are looking a bit ragged now. They look like veterans for sure.
Yeah, they're slightly worn, aren't they? For sure. Okay, and what about painting, or has it just been museum clicking this week? Oh no, sorry, you said you'd started the Ottomans. That sounds like that's going to be quite a project. So you weren't tempted by that extra set of Ottomans that I think Martin from Vexilia sent to me that was on eBay.
Yeah, I looked and went, do I need more Turks? It's like,
what's need got to do with it?
I know, but I've just bought 350 points of ADLGR Ottoman Turks. I don't need an extra 100 points of them.
I couldn't make out what those figures were, Tim. Were they all cavalry?
I think they were actually. Yeah, they look like they're all cavalry. So but then again, it's as we say, we're into that weird thing about need and the rest of it. So
this means war.
So Adam, what didn't you need this week that you ended up doing?
Well, painting wise, I've just carried on painting the Dacians. I've got the second batch of 30 more or less done. I just need the shading slop thing on it, so that's quite good because my painting hasn't gone into overdrive in lockdown because I've got 2 children that aren't at school and I'm doing things with them, which is lovely. But going on and quite happy with that. Buying wise, I've got to buy just a few cavalry to round out the army. Now, question for people that know more about the history than me, because I've done massive research. What should I use as Dacian cavalry? Because no bugger sells Dacian cavalry.
How actually, we might have a solution. I might have a fantastic solution here. How many do you need?
Well, for this army, I only need 4.
What, 4 bases or for
No, just 4, because I was just going to do
4 figures, the 2 light horse.
2 light horse.
I might be able to do you a deal on that, because I've got accidentally somehow, I looked in the cupboard and they were just there, a pack of the Victrix Gallic Cavalry,
Okay.
which is a dozen, which I bought for my, in theory, Seleucid army, and I am not going to get a Gallic army in 28mm, because no, it's just not going to happen. So
yeah, they would do it, the Gaelic ones.
Yeah, so the Gallic ones would do it. So I think the Seleucids.
Because I was thinking of getting a pack of Germans.
Yeah, but I think that the Gauls will be the same. But I probably only need half of. I only need 2 bases, I think, for a Seleucid army.
Mm-hmm.
So I could find a way to swap you 4 Gallic cavalry from the Victrix set, and looking at it, the your offcuts of sprues. And if there's any actual bodies and bits and pieces left, so it's the heads and the hands from your Dacian.
Oh, you're welcome.
Madaxeman.
Yeah, I've got there's hundreds of heads. I've got far too many heads. 2-handed Falxes, there's a few because I've used most of them, but there's loads of one-handed ones and swords and stuff.
Oh no, one-handed ones is absolutely fine, because I think I only need like a dozen or so for a couple of Thracians. And,
yeah, no, more than welcome.
So yeah, heads and hands. If there's heads and hands off, all the offcuts off your sprues, and I can swap you 6, or 4.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
4 of the cavalry, and it's a deal. It's a steal. What's not like to like?
Century.
Sailor, the bleeding century, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, and on the transfers and stuff for shields, because Simon, I actually used those water slides that you gave me. Thank you very much. And they're quite good. They're good. It's they're not as good as Little Big Man, but you kind of get what you paid for. And for me, it was free. It was good. Although I would say, Dave was saying it's a nightmare putting them on. I found putting the Little Big Man shield transfers on really, really easy. It might be because it's 28mm.
28mm makes a big difference. Yeah.
Okay, because I found them easy, and the water slides are good because not only can you sort of like slide them on, you can cut bits out, so you can make it a little bit different. Now, I've looked at one, didn't even need that.
No, wow.
Just went on. Now I looked at one. I thought bugger, because I'm putting them on 2 sides. And one I put, that's not symmetrical. One's closer to the shield boss than the other, but sorry, it was just this drunk shield painter.
Yeah.
The only downside to it really is when I look at them in a certain light, you can kind of see the shine of the transfer,
right?
As well as seeing the pattern. You can see the water slide transfer. But I'm hoping that when I look at most places I play toy soldiers on in dim and dingy, it's like you just won't get that glare, because at home when I look at it in the under light, you get a bit of a shiny glare.
Did you do the gloss varnish sandwich for the water slides?
Oh no.
So water slide, always gloss coat first, then the transfer, then another gloss coat, then a matte coat. Because then
they're a matte coat, but okay.
Or after applying the transfer, use what Tim showed you there, Microset, because that actually helps to melt
the edge of the transfer as well.
The decal backing.
Yeah, no, I think it's Microset you put on first, and then MicroSol that you put on afterwards.
No, I think it's the other way, isn't it?
Well, not the way I've written it down. But I looked it up, because I was doing that every single. Because I've got the MicroSol and the Microset, which I bought last year, just for the hell of it. I don't put that many transfers on, and every single time I needed to use it, I was having to go online and Google how do you use MicroSol and Microset, because I could never remember, even though there's only bloody 2 of them. And so I ended up writing on it, Microset. I've written base on the side.
Why don't you just write a 1 and 2 on it?
Microset sounds like second to make it set.
Yeah. Like a 1. This one first, a big number 1. And there's a number 2. Oh, I use that second.
So what do these things do? Because it's like this. I've just never used transfer.
So Microset and Microsoft
helps the decal. So the one you put on first, which I think is MicroSol, that helps it to conform the decal to conform to the surface.
Yeah.
And you let that dry. and
so do you put it on before the transfer?
Microset, which helps blend in the decal backing.
Yeah, because I've got them here. So
the first one you put on before you put the transfer on.
One that smells quite strong, like vinegar, is the one you use second.
Okay, so Microset here, which I think goes first and you think goes second, is setting solution for decals, softens decals and improves adhesion. So I think that's the base color. And then MicroSol is softens decals to conform to irregular surfaces for a painted on look. And I think that's the one that dissolves the decal a bit. And it goes on second.
It doesn't get any tougher than this.
It doesn't get any tougher. This is like, but but I'm sure we could look this up online. And
so the first one you put on before you put the decal on.
No, yeah, so I've just looked it up, and they're actually saying that you use them in different situations.
Oh no! Come on. Really?
You don't use them together. The set is for flexible, for conforming to, for better adhesion for when you're doing sort of like flat stuff, so-called painted on look. And the MicroSol is for more irregular surfaces. So you're not even supposed to use them together.
So I want the set on
a flat surface. I think it's set, right? So
and the shields are all flat. So
exactly. So it's gloss varnish, then Microset, then when that dries, it's another layer of gloss varnish, and then it's matte varnish. And then me and Tamsin will have a private, separate 2-hour-long debate about which way round these, which we'll release as a separate podcast.
Yeah,
and it'll all be fun.
Sounds like. Yeah, I was going to say it sounds like a lot of dicking about, but I suppose if it gets rid of the slight shine.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it is a lot of dicking about. But if you're putting on teeny tiny transfers, and my teeny tiny little Germans with their teeny tiny little transfers, it's gone completely. You can't see it at all.
I was worried because the last time I used transfers, I think when I was
11,
10, doing a
Spitfire
Hurricane,
yeah.
And I was worried about sort of like the transfer folding in and just sticking together and go, oh, for God's sake! But it's like they came off easily, they went on easily. It was all lovely.
I think the big difference in that, there's not been any big developments in transfer design. It's just you're no longer 10.
Yeah, that might be it. But
that's kind
I found it a lot easier. Because I was thinking, do I need to sort of like reset? And I thought, no, I'll just cut them out, put them in warm water, and slap them on, and they went on lovely.
I think that's it. Yeah,
quite a bit of glare.
Yeah, but I think Microset and MicroSol are kind of gilding the lily a bit. But if I look at all the ridiculous things, I've got my sprue clipping tool, I've got the spatulas idea that I got off you. It's another thing to get, isn't it? To make
and something if it takes away that slight glare, that's actually well worthwhile, to be honest. It's not just messing around.
I still think the varnish sandwich is more important.
Why? What does it do?
Because there's some physics or something about it that gloss varnish has a very flat surface, which is why it reflects the light, whereas matte varnish has a slightly microscopically irregular surface, which is why it's matte. So putting a transfer onto a gloss varnish surface gets less bubbly bits, but it's slightly better. And then giving it another coat, you're completely sealing it in, and then you matte coat over the top of it. So I've always found 2 coats of gloss with the water slide in between that takes the edge of the transfer away an awful lot.
Okay, because I've got a tube of sort of like paint on gloss varnish, so I might give that because I sort of tend to use it for glass or shiny stuff that I want to do.
Oh yeah, Tamsin, are you saying the 2 layers of varnish is a win as well, or do you have like another piece of machinery or something?
No, the sandwich is the
sandwich.
Gloss varnish. Transfer, baby sham,
matte
varnish,
slimline salad dressing. Yeah, it's all there.
Twitters and tweeters
or gloss and ven matte. Yeah.
Well, I found my
bonkers listening to this.
What's that one?
Screaming at their computers, going, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah. Microset goes before MicroSol. It's going to be worse than
that's when I'm on mute. That's all that I'm doing, to be perfectly honest.
We're going to lose listeners, or we're going to gain more with people going, "What are they talking about?"
Yeah. The Microset or MicroSol first is going to be bigger than the Brexit debate. I'm sure it's going to it's going to split the wargaming community down the middle.
I also had something quite sweet happen because my wife was doing the big shop today, and she said, "Is there anything I need?" And I said, "Oh, could you get us a couple of bottles of beer? Because I'm doing sort of my Toy Soldier podcast this evening, and it's to be frank, guys, they're only bearable to talk with if I've had a couple of beers." And because she was buying it, she said, because I was doing sort of like my really sad Toy Soldier stuff, she was trying to decide whether to get a Hobgoblin or Spitfire, which is quite nice because she wanted to match it. So she got me 2 bottles of Hobgoblin because she thought that was slightly more sado than the Spitfire. She didn't actually say sado, but I kind of saw it in her eyes.
Yeah, I've seen that look from Francesca before, definitely. Yeah, it's normally when I walk in the door, and that's it. So that's good. So have we done then? Have we gone around the whole set of World of Painting? That's the full bit. Fantastic.
This means war.
Well, look, painting's done. The huge Microset debate has been kicked off. Maybe we'll come back to that, make it a weekly feature or something. But let's go into the dice rolling, the virtual dice rolling side of it. And as seems to be traditional, because I know it's my best chance of finding someone who's actually played a game. Andy, your weekly Romano slugfest against the Man in America, or have you been beaten by Richard Case this week as well?
No, I took a week off from that. My record at ADLG at the moment is probably even worse than Frank Lampard's at football. The only good news I haven't got a vote of confidence from the wife about the way I've been playing. But it's been lose for the last few weeks. And have
you just picked the wrong strategist? Have you just drawn the duff set of cards, or?
I don't know what it is. I mean, well. Let's just say if Clive had been, God rest his soul, was having a bad day with the dice last Wednesday, he'd have outdiced me. It was just, I had 2 units of light artillery. They scored 1 hit the entire game.
It's light artillery rubbish.
That makes it a bit difficult. But no, my opponent played well, and I didn't get any breaks. And those 2 things together spelt the end of my army.
Yeah, that's not normally a good thing. What was the actual matchup in your?
We were doing Romans against Sertorius in Spain. So Dave had the Sertorians, which was some Roman legionaries and a shed load of medium sword impacts, of which half of them were elite, and a few other bits and bobs. And I had some Roman legionaries and some auxilia and stuff like that. But I mean, I thought it was going well at the beginning because the terrain fell largely open, which worked for me. But as I got out diced, got out maneuvered, and it all got.
So you got run over by fast warband in the open with your
something
legions.
Like that, yes, yeah.
Oh, painful. And any other games from anyone this week?
Yeah. Saunders and I, we managed to get a game of just ADLG on TTS or Tabletop Simulator. So since Dave has just finished his painting his in real life, his medieval or feudal Spanish army, we thought we'd give that a try virtually. And I'm very proud to admit that I came second. So it was all fantastic.
Excellent.
So we went, Dave had feudal Spanish and I went feudal English just for some sheer level of dross and mediocrity.
How many knights did you have?
I only had 9 knights, so
only nine.
I only had 6 knights.
Yeah, so there was quite a bit of badgering running around, as knights and things like that.
My knights showed up and killed your knights even when they were overlapped.
Yeah,
I killed your knight's general in the middle of a. I think I got pretty lucky with the dice rolling. Yeah.
It was definitely one of those games where the dice did swing from positive, negative for both sides, and a couple of times it swung more positively for Dave in critical points. So my knights charged in, or he charged me. I lost most of the combat. he killed the general. 7 knights disappear shortly after.
Oh, wow. Oh, dear.
Well, that's a big hole.
Yeah. So, Dave, did you use that?
Maneuvering of spearmen to get in front of the knights, and the Almogavars running around behind the line in order to get to Simon's mediocre spearmen, which I managed to achieve, but it was a close run thing because my Almogavars did not want to be facing his knights.
So did you use that feudal Spanish army that I cobbled together and thrown up there?
No. This is my favourite army. This is my.
No, I don't mean the list. I meant the figures. I think I made a TTS feudal Spanish army.
Yeah. We've used that.
Good. Yeah, excellent. No, I actually went on. I didn't actually do a game, but I've got a game arranged with Richard for later this week. And
good luck with that one.
Yeah, good luck with that one. I'm being very bold and trying to use Umayyad Arab, which I think 2 years ago I would have been quite competent at. But it's just a bit of a blast in the past. It probably needs some work. But I cobbled a list together and got some Tibetans into it, get some cataphracts. And I managed, I think, Simon, I was saying to you that I found on Tabletop Simulator, there's a huge bag of odds and sods of characters from D&D type games that I do still need to send you the link for all the Renaissance ones. But so for the Tibetan ally to my Umayyad Arab army that I'm putting together, it's got 4 or 5 cataphracts and a unit of bowmen, and I managed to get some animated figures into it. So they're kind of sort of like maiden guard bowmen, and they're moving around a bit, which is slightly disconcerting. And I've also added a guy to the baggage who's digging a hole. So the baggage has got like a bloke swinging an axe to dig a big hole, kind of just keeps hacking away at it. So digging out some of these animated figures is kind of interesting.
It sounds like some of the old Age of Empires game ones.
I bet they are. They'll be stolen from some gaming system or something like that. So it's
chariot on TTS.
And what's that?
I've never found a heavy chariot on TTS.
I think there's some in the Indian army. They're clearly Indian, but
So Tim, with this character digging,
yeah,
reckon that would suit that Osprey book of the Kokoda Trail from 1939 to 1945?
That could be it. We could be doing this. This could be the new thing on TTS. We could be doing airport construction activity in the Bermudian jungle or whatever it was. No, where was it? What
New Guinea jungle.
Bermudian jungle.
Yeah, above 20,000 feet or something like that. Yeah, that could be the one. So that's a possibility. But other than that, it's been kind of thin on the gaming front. Maybe this week there's a bit more to be pushed and done on that side.
There'll be plenty of learnings against Richard Case, mate, I can tell you.
Yeah, I suspect so. Yeah. No, well, now we've got him up and running. I did also actually, I think, show Dave Allen how to do this, to use TTS as well.
That's going to be a lot.
So that's going to be some,
Dave Allen at large.
We've got enough mediocre pike for him.
Camels, isn't it? Mediocre camels, isn't it?
Mediocre camels. So I have to build the Persian war wagon as well. Find something to do
but that was colourful explaining it to Dave Allen.
It was fine. For an old guy, he does all right. He's not too bad. But look, in terms of going back to the past, I think let's go back to last week, and it's now time for Andy's quiz. So Andy, I can see that in your kitchen digital studio, you've got the iPad out, which must mean that there's some questions that you're flicking through to uncover. I don't know whether the kitchen environment means that we're going to get a culinary quiz this week, or maybe not. But look, fire as well.
Let's have to wait and find out, won't you?
Just wait and find out. But look, let's start with last week. What were we up to last week? What was the theme?
He's just cooking the books.
Oh.
No, I do that during office hours. I've enough of that. Right, last week's quiz was about changing sides, and the first one was In which Civil War battle in the year 1600 did 20% of one army change sides, leading to a decisive defeat for their former allies?
Sekigahara.
That's right.
Interestingly, that's one where Ieyasu negotiated with several of the opposing side daimyos to defect across, and one of them just decided to sort of sit there until they were inspired to take action by Ieyasu ordering some of his arquebusiers to shoot at them.
So
Sounds a bit like
changed
that
sides
Battle of
after we
Talas
got
that
shot
did, Tamsin. Do you remember that game we played at Gordon's house once, the Battle of Talas, where we weren't sure which side the Karluks were going to come in on?
Yeah.
Hit us with the next answer then. Fire away.
Right, next one. At the first major battle of the English Civil War, Edge Hill, in 1642, the parliamentary left-wing cavalry was defeated when one troop of their cavalry changed sides during a royalist attack. What was the name of that troop's commander?
General Turncoat? Is that where it comes from?
No, his name was Sir Faithful Fortescue.
Yeah,
No, he wasn't very, was he?
No.
That just tickles me, the name of this guy.
Yeah.
Sir Faithful Fortescue, and he changed sides in the middle of a battle.
Okay.
Right. Now the third one, at the Battle of Leipzig in 1813, an entire
German.
contingent of Napoleon's army changed sides and went over to the enemy. What nationality was that contingent? And Germany wasn't a state at the time, so the answer is not German.
Saxony.
Yeah, Saxons.
And it wasn't all of the Saxons, was it?
Might be not the Garde du Corps, might not the guys with the Imperial Guard, but the sort of Saxon core of the army headed off towards the Austrians, and they were cheered by the French, who thought they were attacking, and the Austrians knew about it and let them in.
Oh, so it's just a little horrendous surprise then. Okay.
Yeah, Napoleon used that as an excuse as to why he lost the battle.
It does sound like a reasonable excuse, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Once
it's a
your
good
army
excuse.
changes
Yeah.
sides.
I'd
go with
5
that.
or 6,000 Saxons from his army defecting was what lost him the battle. Yeah.
Yeah, out of an army of about 250,000, 5,000, go native. Well, of course that's going to change the whole course of history, isn't it?
Yeah, no, we can let him off on that one.
Question, comment les voir? Question, la trou est sans fond? Question, la légende le dit? Question, elle dit aussi? Question, c'est une maladie? Question.
Well, look, on with that's last week's Turncoats, and what's this week's story, Andy? What's the theme today? Right.
Well, the only thing I could think of so far is one says he said what, and basically this is quotes by famous people which I've left blanks, and you have to fill in the blanks.
I think he said what sounds like a very good thing for this podcast, really.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. Anyway, number one was a quote by Frederick the Great, and it's "A crown is just a hat which blank 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 blank."
Right. Okay.
Right. Number two, and this was a quote by Napoleon: "A boy can blank 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 as well as a man." And keep it clean, please.
No, that's all of us out then. Okay.
Number three, and this was General Moltke the Elder: "If you look at any military situation, you will see that the enemy has three options. Of these, he will always choose the blank."
Yep. Okay. All right. That's an interesting set of questions for this week's Andy's quiz.
Question, comment les voir? Question, la trou est sans fond? Question, la légende le dit? Question, elle dit aussi? Question, c'est une maladie? Question.
So look, with Andy's quiz receding to the background, the other thing that's been astonishing this week is that the UK has been covered with almost centimeters of snow for several hours, which is just normally this would be the news story of the year, really, wouldn't it? The world would stop. There'd be all the trains would be stopped. Nobody would be able to go to work. But given nobody is at work and it's not stopped anybody from walking downstairs to the kitchen table and undoing a laptop, it seems to have passed us by, really, with surprisingly little drama, unless that's just all being southern, and there's people up north who are still labouring under it, which case we're sorry for not even being aware of the existence of that. That's not helping, is it, really?
Yeah, it just shows that there's actually more news than there usually is, I think.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we all need, more news. But I think...
Well, I was speaking to a solicitor up in Newcastle, and she said it was about 3 degrees, and I said, "Is that what you call a heat wave?"
Yeah, yeah, they'll be possibly considering rolling down the sleeves on their t-shirts soon, won't they? That sort of temperature. So, but from that thing, it was just we're all kind of chewing over weather really, and the whole concept of weather, because it seems to be from the systems that we're playing, you know, particularly ADLG, in Ancients, weather in the past was part of that very almost kind of literal, we want to recreate everything in our set of rules sort of philosophy, and then it just seems to have kind of dropped out. You know, it sort of disappeared in fog. It's not there in ADLG either, and it was just that kind of, we've been affected by weather or not affected by weather this week, and we play rules where weather used to be a thing, but now it isn't. And is that just part of the evolution of Wargames rules to focus on better stuff? Or
well, I think basically you could do more thematic stuff where the weather takes into account and such like, but in the main you got, you know, a lot of the fighting was done in certain seasons anyway, so you know, until you get to like World War II and some extremes, depending on where you're fighting, you know, going up you know, against the Nepalese and such, but it's not going to be
jungles,
the same sort of thing. Yeah, you know,
yeah.
Borneo jungles, you know, fighting 10 feet distance.
Yeah.
So in, you know, when we're doing a more generic thing across the piece, but you know, you can have fun. I've played in several competitions where when we're doing Flames of War, where you'd have thematic pieces and the weather taking effect, or day night, etc., etc. But that was more certain themes as opposed to a more generic weather.
Does that just actually spoil the game, really? You know,
it makes it more interesting.
I think it's a question: do you want to model some particular effect? Because if not, is it just a load of faff for no particular benefit?
I think it's a case of when sets of rules that cover warfare, when people are fighting all year round, you kind of need weather rules, because World War II, on the Russian front, they were fighting in winter as well as summer. Mm-hmm. So you could say this is a World War set of rules, but only for the spring and summer. But if you're going to do a World War II set of rules, you kind of need to know what's going on with snow. Ancient set of rules, I don't think, because most battles, they just didn't bother if it was raining, to be perfectly honest. Mm-hmm. And when you say it used to be a thing and it's not anymore, I think it's even more precise than that. I think it's a Barker set of rules. Mm. He loves them. And if it's not a Barker set of rules, you don't see them. But I've got to say, because sometimes they can be really annoying, but sometimes they've given me the funniest games I've ever had in a competition. It's like playing DBM, and it's like through a stupid series of decisions and dice throws, it's like we ended up having a battle in snow. And me and my opponent both looked at the rules going, what a bloody hell. Gee, bloody hell. And it completely changed the battle, but it completely screwed both of us over. So we both had to throw the gears. If it's a set of weather rules where it just messes up one army, that would be annoying. Yeah. But if it's sort of like we both went, oh, what? Oh, Jesus. It made it interestingly different.
Yeah. But is you know, doesn't weather mess up both armies the same though? You know, there's unlikely to be one army that
depends on the rule set. Depends on the rule set.
We're talking in rule sets or reality.
Well, rule sets, I get, you know, because we're looking at rule sets, but then the difference between a rule set and a reality is a thing.
Yeah, if you're looking at reality, would armies be equally affected? Take the Mongol incursions into Russia. Stupidized Great Raid, and then the conquest later at the Batu. The Mongols hardly affected by the snow and ice. It was the only time when they had to abandon it to the siege was, I think it was Novgorod, where sort of spring came slightly early, and you had the thaw, which turned all the ground around the city into a quagmire, and Mongols just said, "Oh, sod it, we're going good for us.
But I guess that's a siege, But if that's a siege thing. But if you're actually talking
they fought battles in the snow against the
Russians,
Russian principalities. So.
Yes.
I think with rules, especially French rules, you can have sets of weather rules that do mess up one side or the other. I mean, I think was it DBM that if it was raining or something, it was -1 on shooting.
Yeah.
Where if you're hoplites, you go, don't care. If you're recommended Persians, you go, fuck.
Yeah. I had games in DBM where I had like a medieval army, so mass bow, mass crossbowmen. You get that bad weather, and it's like, well, you're an irregular army, so you're not going to move or turn around very easily or maneuver. And all your shooting's at -1 or -2, and you think, so I traveled 600 kilometers to go to competition for this. Not happy.
Yeah.
I was sort of glad when weather's disappeared.
I play.
It's funny when you model fog effect. Sometimes that could be a hoot, because especially if you bring in a rule as an umpire that the further you move, the more likely you are to end up somewhere you didn't expect.
I think there was one Saga warband. In the back end of the first version of the rules, it got very cheesy. Where they could one of the horse bands, they could say that it was snowing and everything else, so therefore you couldn't shoot at them and stuff, and that got very cheesy at one point.
Step horse, step tribes,
step warriors.
Varangians also had weather magic as well.
But in a set like Saga that is fundamentally about these two forces are supposed to be even, and then they do their special things. I suppose it's got an in-game effect, but something that has a massively disproportionate effect on one side is just sort of defeating the object, isn't it? Is it the thing about rules writers going, I'm not trying to recreate history here, I'm trying to play a game, and if I'm trying to do a game where there's pants, or it doesn't really matter? Or
I think it depends on the game that you're playing. So if you're playing like a slightly larger scale game like ADLG or DBM, Fog, whatever it is, weather really gets in the way because it doesn't really add anything to the game. If you're playing, I think for me, if you're playing a fast, smaller game where it's a little bit more micro level, like a skirmisher game, 10, 15 figures, when weather can become part of the whole experience. Like
yes.
Like say Black Ops, your special forces, James Bond with the bad weather, the storm. Can you get in the storm fields, storms, snowstorms and all that? Can you sneak in to get the secret?
Is it overcast? Is it moonlit?
That would make complete sense. That would really enhance the game.
Yeah, I suppose maybe that's a generic thing about rules then, in that writers now, because there's just so many more sets of rules and rules writers are more skilled at writing rules. Is it fair to say that they're taking a decision as to whether the weather adds to the experience that they're trying to achieve with that game, and it's an experiential thing rather than an outcome thing? And if I don't know, maybe it's just one of those byproducts of rules writers just becoming more professional.
I think so. If you look back at some of the games we used to play, say 20 years ago, like either DBM or modern games like Challenger 2000, whatever. Some of those games were quite chunky and meaty. You had lots of tables and charts, and it was all about ultra accuracy. And I remember when we sort of moved from those games to the more lighter mechanic ones, say Cold War Commander for moderns, where rather than having you're shooting against a tank against its front, it's got this type of armor, it's hull down, it's got this and that, and there's that. Half an hour later, you go, roll dice, I got a 4, I missed.
Yeah.
The Cold War Commander went more for the game of, we're here to push tanks around the table. How quick can we get you to go? Bang, it exploded. And when you took away the chunkiness, you still got the game, and you had 2.5 hours of your evening left to drink beer and eat a curry.
Yeah, I wonder if there's people out there who do homebrew weather. In fact, I wonder if anybody does like homebrew weather rules for games that they're playing that are not scenarios. It just feels like a way to shoot yourself in the foot in some ways.
I've done it on airplane games because that makes it a bit more interesting. We did it way back when we were doing World War II ones, because you want certain clouds coming over and different things like that, and just makes it a bit different.
And also for naval games, and I suppose this is the different style of game. For naval games, you've got to have weather. Age of Sail, if you don't have wind, you're kind of missing out on an important thing. And even for sort of like World War One, World War Two,
it's called Age of Bob, then, isn't
it? age of way anchor. Yeah, that's it.
Even World War One, World War Two, squalls, mists, fog banks, really common, really important. And even sort of coastal games, it's a case of if the swell gets too much, your boat starts not sort of like operating as it should. So, some sets of rules you need them, and naval ones being an obvious thing.
Oh, that reminds me. Oh no, I've just remembered. I painted up 4 little ships this week as well. I've already packed them away into a box. Sorry, I painted up 4 little ships.
Next week. I was going to say I was thinking of doing those.
I thought you were going to say I've painted up a thunderstorm.
Yeah, no, that sounds like some sort of euphemism, doesn't it? It's like
I've painted a fog bank. Oh no, Austrian infantry.
Yeah, it's quite a curry last night. I've gone and painted up a thunderstorm. You don't want to go in there for another hour.
DBM weather rules. I started wargaming with DBM at the very end of DBM, and it was a struggle to even play the bloody game and understand what's going on. But when you sat down at the beginning and somebody said, "Shall we play the weather rules?" And then throw a 6 or whatever. Go, right, okay, we're fighting at midnight. No one can see anybody until they get 30 millimeters from each other. And you go, what? And then another one, something saying, oh, right, well, we're going to play with the weather rules. And the wind is blowing, so you're on a -1 and we're on a +1 for bowfire.
Yeah.
And the wind's just changed.
Yeah.
We'll go. And that was this is just fucking ridiculous.
One thing I like about that is having played competition style games for actually decades now, scarily enough, we're all getting old and we're going to die soon. It's been a decade-long journey of just finding new ways to lose. And those weather rules have given me some exciting new ways to lose.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, but they
you
were.
Just see the weather rules on Dave's nights are it's too hot for them in Spain. They're all slowly boiling in all their armour.
Yeah, they're doing it.
That's why
Brilliant.
Lighter armour.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, there could be an advantage for that, couldn't there?
Much heavier armour.
Yeah. No, but it's just you look back and you think, like the thing you're describing there, Dave, it's kind of like if someone says, okay, should we play this game by both putting our left hand in a pint of boiling water? It's just like, let's start by doing that, and just make it really difficult for ourselves for no apparent reason. And okay, we'll have a story to tell at the end of it, but really, are we making this a fun experience, or are we trying to make it a lopsided experience based on the first dice roll? And if you've got a game that the very first dice roll, which might be the weather, has a huge impact on whether anybody wins or loses, you extrapolate that to, you kind of go, if that was just the setup rules, an attacker kind of has a big advantage, you go, these rules are broken. But with weather, we seemed to sort of live with it, didn't we, for a while? Because it was just one of those things that they'd done. But it just, as I say, seems to have very much gone away. A bit like
I was playing, I found people just tried to ignore the weather rules.
Yeah, I think it was quite often not done, wasn't it?
Without any comment.
Yeah, skip over.
Weather rules have a place if you're doing a scenario-based game. If you try, want to recreate a particular battle, and say Towton.
Yeah.
A good example, sort of weather. So even in that size, it's just that weather affected one side more.
It did make a difference there because one lot could fire their arrows further, couldn't it? Because of the way the wind was blowing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like if I was doing a World War II set of war games rules, should have some weather rules in because they fought all year, and it does make a difference. And if it's not, it's only half. If it's only a fair weather set of rules, that's fine. But it's only a set of rules, and they're assuming other people will.
Especially the World War II when you're doing the 28mm ones.
What are the ground conditions? Can your tracked vehicles actually, are they more likely to get bogged down if they go off road? Things like that. Yeah.
I think they're an option in Rommel, but Jeff and I never bother using them.
I suppose,
and that's fine. But as long as the option, it's like for a complete set of rules, you need the option there because if you're going to fight
But some
December
scenarios
in
have a
1942.
specific effect. It might say,
Is it
this
in
is
bolt
soft
action?
snow, so it's rough ground type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the weather rules
that
in
is a
bolt
good point.
action?
Yeah. Who knows? But I think that's a good point. If it affects how you use the rest of the terrain and it affects both armies equally, which I suppose it would do in naval games as well, that's fair enough. But I think maybe we're actually being slightly jaundiced about it because we've played ancient games and the weather rule was always really lopsided towards one of the armies.
Tim, I've got to say, it's starting to sound like you've had some bad experiences playing weather rules and DBM in the past.
The weather was, if you're playing weather, take camels.
Yeah, you were trying to play for a dust storm, weren't you? You were trying to jimmy the game to end up with a dust storm.
Camels. Always take camels because the camels ignored the bloody dust storm.
Yeah.
No, I've had some great experiences with weather games. I think way back in the day in Usk somewhere when it was actually still in Usk, myself and Mick, ended up getting the DBM rules changed because we comprehensively beat Richard Bodley Scott's two children in a dust storm. I think they were using some sort of army that was like a very clever horsey army. Everything formed up in columns and they started off in columns and they were going to zip and concentrate on one part of our army and do a totally historical blitzkrieg type tactic. And we were using Russ, which just plodded forward and covered the whole table. And almost immediately, this terrible dust storm came down, which meant their troops couldn't move because they'd all set out in columns and they were just in the wrong formation to move. And then, so our army just trudged across the table and this dust storm carried on and carried on. And then after we'd marched the full width of the table in full width, we came into contact with the heads of these columns. And in DBM, you used to push things back. So we'd go into the front of like these four columns of cavalry, push them all back, and four bases would drop off the back of the table into these lads' laps. And almost within days after the end of that competition, Bodley Scott was online announcing a change to the weather rules to make dust storms much more difficult to achieve and much less effective. So
no. From his wife, no doubt.
Yeah, it's probably didn't want these like children kicking him around the house for the stupid rules that he'd written. But yeah, no, I think they've kind of gone since, and it's there are some periods where weather is important, and I can see sort of in Second World War it will affect whether you're going on or off road and things like that affects both sides. But those lopsided ones of if you've got a load of bowmen, I want to try and play weather rules so that it's raining and then it will affect you and not me, was just not fun at all. And the rules mechanism was so simplistic anyway that whether it was a real, it's the kind of thing we could have all made up as a mechanism when we were 8. I guess they never felt there was a huge amount of thought put into them.
Every go as well. The direction of the wind used to change.
It used to swing around and all sorts of nonsense. Didn't it?
I'm a bit worried after that story that I'm a bad parent, because my reaction to that would be stop crying. It's character building.
Yeah, well, that's what we told them as well for about the last 2 hours of the game, but it just didn't seem to get through. I think they were still quite young at the time, but yeah, no, it was very notable, very notable. Wow. But look, it looks dark outside, so we're obviously no longer capable of checking the weather. But I think we've given that one a good running over with the Michael Fish stick, so to speak, and I think on that note, we're probably gearing towards the end of this week's episode. So this means war. Anybody got any last minute thoughts about what they're planning for next week, or any other things like me and the ships that you've forgotten about? I'll come back to those next week, hopefully, if I remember.
Well, I just want to say that going back to an earlier discussion, Tim was right, I was wrong.
Well, on Microset and MicroSol?
Microset, yeah.
Okay.
So when do you use the Anisol?
So you use Microset on top of the first layer of gloss varnish to make the transfer stick a bit better. Yeah. And then if you're putting the transfer onto a slightly irregular surface, which if you Google it, what you always end up is the sheet.
If it's sort of a regular bumpy surface, use Microset, apply for decal, then when the
MicroSol.
Microset's dried off, apply MicroSol.
And that's always about putting some sort of transfers on the shoulders of Space Marines, which is like a curvy thing. Apparently, that's what it always seems to come up with whenever I look at it on online.
But would it equally apply if you've got shields which are domed?
True. Yeah, dome shields as well. Yeah. Well, I think on that note, in that I appear to know something better about technical stuff to do with painting and model making and Tanzin. That probably brings the entire podcast to an end, doesn't it? There is no more. Maybe we should just stop here. I should stop while I'm winning.
All you need to do is start quoting Napoleonic stuff, and then we're done.
Actually, no, that's not going to happen. I think we've probably still got some more weeks, but I think as I said last week, just before we wrap up, you can give us positive ratings on iTunes. Apparently, you can't do that on Spotify for some reason. Spotify doesn't let you do that, but if you Google the Madaxeman podcast iTunes, you'll get to a page, and you can give us stars as well to send our ratings sky high.
With Spotify, is it only us that they don't let give positive ratings?
Well, somebody else was saying you can't give.
Someone's
ratings.
listened to it. Spotify.
Actually, no, I'm making that up. I was saying I'm assuming someone wanted to give positive ratings, but someone was on Facebook saying you can't give ratings on Spotify. Maybe that's a good thing. It depends what kind of ratings they were going to give. But yeah, iTunes, you can search for it, and any other podcast service, vote us up if you wish. Which is kind of amusing.
Can I come up with a suggestion that I put in our WhatsApp thing today, which is maybe people would email and keeping it clean, tell us what's the most esoteric thing they've been doing while listening to the podcast.
Yeah, if we've got any other things, and equally, if you've got any better topics than weather in Wargames rules you'd like to hear us witter on about as well.
What would you like to hear us witter on about next week?
What would you like to hear us witter on about next week? We're happy to take requests. We may ignore them, but we are happy to take them. So
we'll talk bollocks about anything.
Yeah, we'll talk a load of odd nonsense about anything. So at any request. So look, on that note, it's
you want it, we'll play it.
Yeah, you want it, son, we'll play it. So on that note, it's probably time to wrap up. So goodbye from me and goodbye from everyone else. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Stay safe out there in the snow. Google Madaxeman podcast iTunes, you can get to Madaxeman.com podcast on Apple Podcasts, and we've got ratings. We've got 5-star ratings on iTunes. So
wow.
But there is 7 of us.
I know. So who the fuck is not doing it? So,
who's not gone in and done the thing?
Who's not gone in and done that?
Sorry, folks.
Yeah,
I haven't gone on to iTunes.
There we go then. That's identified. That's the problem sorted.